In today's video, we are jumping back into the world of screenwriting. I am always looking for great screenwriting content from people who look like me, so I figured, why not, as I figured things out and acquired resources, share them. So here we are. In today's video, we're talking about how to prepare your 2021 fellowship applications. Okay, so now you're ready to submit your fellowships. What will that entail? Preparing, of course, and then submission. One thing I definitely preface this with is that you do not want to submit to fellowships haphazardly. You want to go into your fellowship submissions with a plan. You want to go into your fellowship submissions with purpose, with intention. You want to go into submitting with your best work. And the only way you do that is with preparing. Imagine the fellowship submission is a blind pitch to a manager, agent, studio, or network. You are pitching you with what you submit in your package for each fellowship. And that is what's going to speak for you as a creative. There are a few things that you're going to need when you're submitting to fellowships, mentorships, and screenwriting contests. And in this video, I'm going to break down each of those so that you can feel confident and happy when you press the submit button. You're going to need a sample of your writing, which is typically a feature film or pilot script. In some cases, networks want you to also submit a spec script, and other opportunities allow for you to submit short fiction or short films and some type of other creative writing sample. You're also going to need a personal statement, a letter of intention, answers to essay questions, your resume, and/or a letter of recommendation. So let's talk about your writing sample, feature film or pilot. I'm a multifaceted film creative, so in addition to being a screenwriter, I also direct, I also produce, act, and a few other things. So I don't necessarily check one box, but if you're a television writer, then you will focus your submissions on pilots and spec scripts. I said this to say that I have both a pilot as well as a feature film that I am going to be submitting during these fellowship applications. And the requirements differ per program, but they give a good example of my work. Now, with your feature film, it is always an original idea, but when you're submitting to television fellowships, you will have to see what the requirements are for the specific network or television fellowship that you're submitting to, because some expect an original pilot idea, but then others expect for you to do a original pilot as well as a spec script, which is a speculative script that's based on a television show that was previously produced for a network. And that's whether it's for that particular network or that network's competition. Your feature film script is a typical script, so 120 pages, at least an hour and a half. People do not spec feature films, so do not do it. With the television pilot, there's a lot of room for creative freedom. So the areas within the pilots that you can write a 30-minute pilot or a 60-minute pilot. Within the 30-minute genre, you could do a comedy, a dramedy, a sitcom. But an hour long is typically a drama or procedural, and that's really up to you and the type of story you choose to tell once you select which format you want to write in. There are some fellowships for specific networks that may have a preference of one over the other, so check the rules and guidelines and be sure not to submit a 30-minute when they are asking for an hour. It gets a bit tricky if you don't select one type or just one box like myself, like I write features as well as television, because a lot of opportunities also require a second writing sample. And if it's a television opportunity, then you would need a second television sample. Right now, I have a television script and a feature film script. So those are great for general screenwriting opportunities, but I'm going to have to write a second sample for television, and that will probably be a spec script as my second writing sample. Not all opportunities require a second sample, but it's better to be prepared than not. For example, I submitted to 3 fellowships in the past week and only one required a second sample. The best part about that one was that it didn't require a specific type of script, so I was able to submit my pilot script as well as a short film script that I had written last year. A lot of people talk about specs and how they aren't used like they were before, but I think it's great to have at least one television spec in your portfolio. Because that can typically be your second sample when submitting to these television fellowship opportunities. The personal statement is always tricky for me because I don't like talking about myself, and I definitely don't want to write about myself. But your personal statement is your opportunity to tell the committee who is judging this fellowship about you as a creative or as a writer, about how you think, about your perspective, about your talents, and why your perspective is needed right now in the industry. That's what I really feel about personal statements and what they do. So they are powerful. They're an opportunity for the judging committee to get a sense for how you talk and think, basically, without talking directly to you. So don't let your personal statement become this nondescript, formulaic writing sample that doesn't actually give anybody any insight to who you are as a person, because that would do you a disservice. And you have to be able to sell yourself as a creative with creative words. All of that needs to be in your personal statement, and you can search the internet and find examples for different personal statements that people have written in the past, but I would take all of that with a grain of salt, and I would start with my personal statement before I actually went out to look for examples, because you can often get caught up with what this person is like or what this person experiences or the experience that I don't have, and at the end of the day, it's not about that. The point of your personal statement is to tell them who you are, not how much you are like the person who won last year, or the typical people who seem like they win, or literally I'm the exact same person as this person, so you should select me. Nobody is trying to select what they already selected, and you don't have to be something you're not. The point is to tell them who you are, what stories you want to tell, and ultimately provide convincing support as to why this network, this brand, this company should align their name, their reputation, their resources, mentorship, and everything that they have to offer with you. In most cases, if you are an original person with an authentic voice, a great perspective, and a great story to tell, then that alignment makes sense. The letter of intention can be optional with most opportunities. Out of the 3 fellowships I did so far, I was only asked to submit a letter of intention for 1. But another one I had specific essay questions that pretty much pulled out the same answers that I wrote in my letter of intention. I think it's great to draft so that you can have it to pull parts from with your other submissions. With it, you can clearly communicate that you have a goal and that you can clearly articulate that goal. There's so much power in being able to clearly articulate your intentions as a creative, as a writer, as a filmmaker, and not enough people think about that. Similar to your personal statement, you're going to write from your point of view, but in this, you're going to write stating what your intentions are in the industry, why you have these intentions, what did these intentions look like manifested within your career field, and why you choose to storytell the way that you do. Essay questions are the most topical of all of the things that are needed for a submission because they change by opportunity, and you won't necessarily know what questions you're going to have to ask until you open up the application when the application period opens. I do have a PDF that I'm going to provide with prompts for questions that you can ask yourself and answer. I also recently updated my list to include a few of the essay questions that were actually on one of the apps that I submitted recently. That way, you're able to not start from scratch when you do these applications or when the submission process opens, but you can start from a place with clear answers regarding what you want to say, how you want to feel. For example, how do you feel about protest art, or how do you feel about politics in art? If you have an answer to that question ahead of time, and then the question comes up or similar to that, then you're able to drag and drop parts of your answers, and again, not start from scratch with every application. So I always suggest to do at least some prompts and get answers to some of these questions, and that gives you a great head start moving forward in the submission process. Before you hit submit, well, hopefully before, please get feedback on your scripts and on your personal statement. And this could be a friend or a fellow filmmaker that's going to help you get a different perspective on what you actually have on the page. And let them tell you what they see. Do not tell them what to look for. Don't give them any kind of guidance. Just give them the work, give them a personal statement, and have them tell you what they see, what they feel, what they think, honestly. One of the greatest tools that a filmmaker or a screenwriter can receive is the feedback of others, because it allows you to preview into the minds of your audience and see things other than what you were thinking when you were writing it, and potentially open new doors for where your story could go. Even with feedback that I don't agree with or simply don't like, I try to find a way to use it or to implement it. And that's one of the things that you're gonna see come up a lot as a screenwriter, specifically as a new screenwriter. You're going to see people talk about the note behind the note. You will receive a good amount of notes that don't make sense to you or may not actually be an accurate way of communicating what the actual note is. And that, in those cases, is your job to figure out what the person was trying to say or what's the note behind the note. This is another great example of time where feedback would be helpful. If you can get someone to do a pass with your scripts or your personal writing statements, specifically for grammar, punctuation, and spelling errors, that would be clutch. You need to not have any of those errors in your work. You don't want punctuation, bad grammar, or spelling to be the thing that puts a stop sign or a speed bump for someone who's trying to really get into your story, who happens to be loving it, and now they're distracted by these basic errors. All right, there you have it. That's everything that you need to push submit for your screenwriting fellowships, mentorships, or writing contests. Just to recap, you will need a writing sample, either feature film or original pilot. You will need a personal statement, a letter of intention, an updated resume and bio, a letter of recommendation from another creative or director filmmaker, hopefully, and you will need notes on your script. If you have any questions that I did not answer in this video, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below. Follow me on social media, and you can always send me a DM to get a question answered right away at Erica Vane. If you haven't gotten it already, down in the description box, I have a link to the PDF that will give you the full overview of the 2021 fellowship, mentorship, and screenwriting contests that are open and that you should consider submitting to. I also have an opt-in so that you can receive reminders and accountability emails to keep you on track for submission. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.